Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk, and we got something maybe a little bit different today. Got my coffee. So this match was interesting. I have a really good game, 7,000, almost 8,000 damage, and my CS59 finally got it fully upgraded. And it opened up with a little bit of TK angst, and went on from there. It became a kind of COVID hermit react to the match, not the map kind of game. I was all over the map. I went all the way up to all the way down to the southeast, and then came all the way back up to the back, and I saved a TD, and then I went up to about A4 and hung out in the bush and defended as the cap got pushed, and then we pushed in for the last few guys. Also, there was two really important AFKs for some reason in this game, two tanks that were really important to the enemy team, which is a large reason why I farmed so much damage off of those guys. And the game ended, and I had a really good game. I aced the tank pretty good. So the reason we're actually here is not because we're necessarily going to talk about that, but I will as we go. Afterwards, I got a message from one of the players, one of the TD players on my team, the one we got into a little bit of the angsty TK action at the very beginning. Not that it matters these days as much. You're still not supposed to do it, but you don't take damage anymore. We're going to talk about that because I find it really interesting just from a gamer standpoint. Part of this channel is looking at the game industry itself, the players, the sociology of the whole thing. I think it's really interesting. So we're going to talk about this particular player and the message that he and I got into. In fact, I went away a few days, had to go take care of taking the daughter to college, came back, and there was another message, so I responded a little bit to that. We're going to actually take a look at the messages that we got, because I want to talk about the reality, right? The truth, and what you perceive. Does that make sense? What really happened? How do we perceive it? And is that right or wrong, depending on what we're looking at? From my side and from his side, at least from my opinion. Obviously, from his side, we're not going to get directly from the horse's mouth, but I thought it was interesting. We're going to try to keep it as straightforward as possible, just the facts, at least from my perspective. Obviously, I have the mic, so everything I do is from my perspective, right? So let's look at the combo. I'm going to bring this thing up. The players right there says, do they make... And I'm going to read it, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to jump into the actual game, take a look at it, and see how it matched both how he looked at it and how I looked at it, because my comments here were before I really had gone back to the replay and taken another closer look. I had just come out of the game, at least for the first messages, up to the 21st, so the 18th. 19th was that day and the day after. So he says, do they make the map deep enough for you? I guess 2 back off the edge of map better for you. Effing blocking out TDs from sniping holes is a crime. Okay, we'll take a look at that in the game, what he's talking about there, if it exists or doesn't. I said I was trying to get by, and you noticed I had no intention, and if you noticed I had no intention of blocking as I went, well past your passive sniper camper bush. All right, so throwing out a few insults there. I moved forward and was the reason we knew the flank was won, and then repositioned back to save you from the T-44. You are welcome. And then went to a spot that can defend against their push as they had won the other flank. Then I helped push that flank. Was the reason we killed the 703 instead of letting it kill us one by one, and I found the last guy. We're going to see how true all of that is, because some of it's true, some of it's sort of true, and we'll let you guys make your own opinion of it right there. Now, let me just talk quickly about this game, personal message, instant messages, and the comms and things. We've had the global chat in the game taken away so that we don't get any back and forth in the game. But we still have the ability to message people after the game. As a general rule for me, I do not send anybody in garage messages unless it's a good game or asking them a question about something that happened without throwing out insults. So rarely, if ever, do I open up these kind of convos unless it's in a positive light. However, if you open one of these up to me and start negotiations, I will begin negotiations as well. So as far as I'm concerned, it's both barrels from there. I have been able to dial it back and do a lot better about the insulting part. Obviously still a little passive-aggressive insults right there. However, when you start it, then you got to be prepared to play at that point. And he didn't really come at me with anything really bad, other than accusing me of a couple things that didn't actually happen. The whole game was won by me again. You are welcome. All right, was it? a good portion of it, but maybe not necessarily. And as a matter of fact, this player, after looking at it, did a good part of helping us win. At least later on in the game, we'll get to that. LOL from him. Next time you play the bunny on the tracks. Now, this is the next day, and I didn't get this until I came back from my trip. You play the bunny on the tracks, whatever that means, and I hide way in the back for the easy shot. LOL, you are so good. Well, as a matter of fact, he was in the back. We'll look at that, at least for a good portion of the game. I wrote, you didn't read what I wrote, didn't watch the replay, or are talking, even though I misspelled it, to the wrong person, because that's not what happened at all. Maybe. We'll take a look at it. So you weren't the medium that first ran to the waterfall rock to push out TDs. No, I wasn't. I was in the push with them. We'll take a look at that on the replay. You were the medium to run to the back rock to take away another TD position. Completely missed in that statement is what happened in between, which we'll get to. You weren't the medium that hid behind the rock whilst my TD had to rub the rail tracks to draw fire for you to continue to hide at that rock. Okay? I think he's talking about the fallback to defend the cap, because he actually never went to the sniper rock down by the bushes. We'll look at that. No, I didn't watch the video and see you simply sit at the back and rely on every other person on the team let you snipe. F, you are vain. Well, okay, you know, guilty. The vain thing, if you're gonna have a YouTube channel and try to do the things I'm doing on the interweb nets, you probably have a passenger somewhere in the car of vanity. You know, vainness is going to drive along with you more than likely. But I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, actually, I was not that medium because I don't really know what he's talking about exactly. I think he's mixing two people up potentially. I tried to pass you and you spun me out. Then I tried to get away from you and you pushed me. Then you shot me 4 times instead of letting me get away. We're going to talk about that when we get to it. I went past the rock, which was always my intention, to get you guys spots further up the bushes. Pretty standard move on that map, actually, by mediums and lights. Then I went all the way around, all the way forward and killed the T-34 because that entire flank was actually empty for the most part. Then I fell back, and when the other flank died, that says I did, but I meant died, and saved you from the T-44. Then had to fall back to the bush to save the flank, then pushed middle to help secure the win. LOL, you are so effing vain. I said, here's a replay. I'll be making a video of it, as it's an interesting game overall. I gave him the replay, so that's on whatreplays.eu. You can get that right there. You can see the replay yourself without my commentary. Go for it. It will be a tutorial tut in how to use your team's HP and stat padding. Interesting. Let's take a look at the replay then. Get rid of the old convo there. And we'll get started. So here we are. We're loaded in on Steeps. Steeps! That's right. It's called Steeps. Don't tell me it's not Steeps. It is Steeps. Tier 9. I am top tier. That's nice. There's 3 of us. And we have some 7s and 8s. And I finally have the CS59 fully upgraded, which with the big gun, the 390 Alpha gun at tier 9 is actually pretty good. This tank is way better than the tier 8. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My intention is to come over here, go past that rock and get into these bushes and see how far forward I can get and maybe start bush sniping some of these dudes. See what's coming. If they're really pushing hard, then back out and cross over and try to defend. But I want to see what's going on this flank. So here we go. Now the person in question is this guy here, Ducky. He's in his AC-48 and he is headed to where TDs like to go. Looks like he wants to go to the rock, and that's a pretty good move. So I'm just driving along. I haven't really even paid attention to the guy at this point. I'm just headed down here to this point, out and ahead of him a little bit. He's got a pretty fast TD. I'm keeping a little bit of the left side open. I kind of check over there. And now I'm coming close to this rock, so I just want to kind of go around this rock without getting scraped off, and we run into this situation. So I'm hoping that he will just stop for a moment, let me go, and I'll be out of his way. Right? So I just keep trucking. If I stop, now we're both doing the back forward. All he has to do is stop, hold on for a second, and I will get the heck out of his way. So we get into this. Now I'm just like, all right, trying to get out of the way. I will admit the first move here was a little piffy because I could not believe he wouldn't just stop, let me get separation, and we would be out of each other's way completely. Now he's shooting. Now I'm actually, honestly, just trying to get out of his way. He's pushing, rubbing against me, and until there's separation, I can't actually turn the hole and get away. That's the God's honest truth of what's going on here. So that's the perception and the reality and what we perceive that I'm talking about, right? So he's like, oh, you're griefing me, blocking me. I'm like, dude, I'm just actually trying to get away. I can't. And then we get rammed by the Udes. And he shoots 4 shots at me. Which, whatever. TK stuff's gone. I don't care. You want to waste 4 shells doing that, not let me go. Now I just need to get past these guys because I'm late for the party I was trying to get to. Like Udes, let me just get out of your way. I'm going to go around the Progetto. Here we go. And we're headed in. So we've got the T-34G. And we're not seeing things. See where the Pantera's gone to? We'll talk a little bit about this map and this game as we go. Very interesting. He hasn't seen anything. This spot where the Pantera went to, I'm seeing a lot of people use now, which I've never seen before. And I don't know if it's just COVID hermit action. People don't really realize it's not that good, or something's changed on the map, or maybe it's a good spot to be. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that spot. Trying to get around this guy. There we go. He stops. I'm like, all right, buddy, here we go. All right, so this is where I was always going, right here. Okay? Now, the AC-48 gets in there and sees there's a bunch of guys stacked up. There is another medium there, the Progetto. So I don't know if early on, other than he and I getting in that little fender bender, if he's talking about the Progetto pushing guys around, or he's mixed the two of us up. I don't know, to be quite honest. I'm nowhere near that bush at this point. So I'm coming up here. And clearly not using my team to sit back and stat that. I don't know what to say to that part of the accusation. Nobody shows up, which was fascinating. So I keep pushing. The Pantera got up there. He's not catching anybody up and around. There's a 1375 scouting, taking some hits. But there's nothing, I don't see anything else kind of poking around. Guys have been here. They were here well before me. None of their faster tanks showed up. So I'm just going to kind of push in on this dude and see what we can find. Get a little spotting. There's 254. That works for me. We'll come around the corner, see if we can find this comet. I don't see anything, and I just keep pushing. I have so much power behind me. Actually, I pause for a moment. I'm wondering if something will come around that corner, and it doesn't. I have so much power behind me, I figure, well, let's go ahead. Now, look, the AMC has gone all the way back and is sitting on the sniper hill, right? Accusing me of sitting back and doing nothing, and he is back there. Now, he may be looking at the 1375. It's possible he got damage off that guy. So if he's got lights and shots, then I don't have any issues with that. But clearly at this point of the game, neither one of us is doing anything to the other of any kind. So I'm going to move up here. I find the T-34. We're going to talk about COVID hermit stuff just a minute here, because I thought this guy was AFK. We actually going to have 2 others that are AFK. It's going to be hugely important to the farming that I do up forward. I'm certainly stat padding in the back right here. We'll get to that a little while later. But I find this dude, and I think he's actually AFK because I shoot him. He doesn't seem to have any reaction. But there were a lot of new, low game players here. And you'll see he finally moves a little bit. He's staring at me. I'm going to come up and get rid of the scout. The second shot should have gone into the scout anyway. But we get a couple hits into this dude, and he's not going to reload in time when we kill him. I don't even get the shot. Now, game-wise on this map, talking about playing the match and not the map, COVID hermit action in weird metas. This obviously doesn't go the way, you can see it's not going the way it usually does on this map. Nobody really came this way. They didn't push down to hold this. So there's no reason to push into their cap. Whatever campers they have back there, all this open area, it's really difficult to push in here. Plus all the guns that are left in the game. This is the other side, the west side is still in question. That's still a question. We don't know if we're going to win or lose over there. To me, it looks like we got plenty of firepower, but it turns out we don't. And there's no reason for all these lighter tanks just to drive through this generally open area and get bombarded by TDs and whatever flexes back from this flank right now. So it's the push to the flank is not set, right? What we need to do is take our guns somewhere else more effective. So I'm going to actually start moving back towards the middle. No reason to push in. I make a slight mistake here. The stupid comet. I'm hoping he's not paying attention to me. But as I run, I'm the guy he picks because, of course, the rear armor and other guys are coming up there. People don't kill him fast enough. This shot doesn't hit. It goes right over him. So I eat 2 shots, unfortunately. There's 297 hit points I did not need to take. But he goes down, and that works for me. So we'll come around here. The other thing to note, obviously, on this game is there's no artillery. That changes some of the things I'm able to do, and it makes some of the spots I play much more powerful. The bush I get to later on, most definitely, those little pushes around the corners down on the east side were nice because no artillery bombed on me either. As always, taking on that T-37, I could have easily got bombed. I see the T-44-100 moving through the middle, and he's pushing in towards our TD back there. I want to get over to the west flank. I need him to go away first, so I'm going to work my way back here. At this point, I'm not really thinking about Ducky. about what, you know, the little scrap we had or whatever. I clearly don't know anything about the message because I haven't got the message. I'm not worried about it. All I'm doing right now is T4400, and oh, by the way, we're starting to lose. Of course, the Muppets over on the other side have pushed into all the TDs with the entirely predictable result of they start dying, right, and taking hit points. It's just not something to do. The T4400 comes around, he thinks he's going to start circling the AC, and unfortunately now he's fighting two guys, one with the turret. AC is probably on a reload right there as he's not shooting him, so that's fine. I try to ram this guy and track him, but it doesn't quite work. I'm going to back up in case the AC reloads, get a little bit better shot, and we'll take that dude down and get a nice 427 ammo rack on him. And we part ways. I don't think about him. Like, great, we got him. And I start moving over to the west flank, which unfortunately is really falling, especially when that Conqueror gets lit on fire and they got multiple tanks, and I go, well, I'm not going to get over there and help. I don't have enough armor to go hold down and hold those guys off. I'm going to have to go to this well-known sniper spot here. And I think this is where he's arguing or having an issue with me taking a TD spot and sniping from the back. And to be quite honest, this was the exact right play for anyone to make. Whether he could have got here first or me or whatever, somebody needed to get up into this spot so that we can start taking on these guys who push. The E25 also did a pretty good job for the team, kind of getting spots, running around, being quick, getting to different shooting positions. The AC has taken up a pretty good, so we got Ducky's in a pretty decent spot up here. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to shoot without getting spotted. He will get pushed off of that hill, but for the moment, we have a pretty good ambush set up for some of these guys, and we should be able to start hammering them. So we're going to throw one into the IS-3 too. I do not as good a job, is that what I'm trying to say? I don't do as good a job as I really wanted to with the bushes. I think if I would have got back to the red line, I might have been able to get some more 15-meter not spotted shots. My only problem with that is if you're further back, then it's a little bit easier to get shots from different directions. So I was, I guess, more interested in using the rock than worrying too much about getting spotted, because I could kind of protect myself. No arty, that's where no arty is very important. I actually eat a IS-6 shot right there I didn't want to eat. And we take down the two-barrel guy. The P's out in the open, and now the enemy team is doing exactly what my team did and getting a little bit wrecked for it. The good news is some of those guys stayed alive, but they're not really doing much, are they, over on the east? They kind of got stoppered by some TDs. They're afraid to move up. A couple of them got a little bit closer, but we have evened up the score to 8-8, and now we're starting to work on this flank. You can see the AC. Ducky got pushed out of the bush, and he's had to reposition down low and try to take these guys on if they come up and over the tracks right there. That may have been what he was talking about, the railroad tracks. Next time I can be the guy that sits on the railroad tracks. So we're going to come forward here, and we're looking for more shots on the Tiger P. Now is the time when if I could have, maybe get to the red line and try to do the old opaque bush thing here, but for the most part, I'm just trying to look for those shots when they show up. A little shot into that guy, get a 380, nice. No light because I think he was technically double bushed right there. There's a little shot into him. That one got me spotted because you come out from around the bush. The IS-6B is in there. There's a Centurion somewhere around as well, and then the Tiger P gets nuked. The E25 does a nice job right there, and we got 3 kills and 3,600 damage. You can see the Centurion comes in. I missed that shot. Get lit. Again, another opportunity potentially at this point. Now that the Tiger P is gone, and I really don't think there's anybody going to get shots from back this way, I could probably get to the red line here and no kidding, bush up such that I can just sit there and fire, fire, fire. So a bit of a mistake on the way I played it here. I play it well for the way I played it, but there was probably a better way to play it. So we'll go ahead and wait for reloads. We'll come in here. He takes a couple shots. A little shot on this guy. Boom, that bounces. That's a bummer. Does get me lit. Don't want to go too far forward because the IS-6B is there. Ducky and his AC is still alive. Trying to take shots. Kind of tricky. He's got to come up over the tracks to do so. So we'll get the little light right there and we'll just shoot this dude. He's backing up onto the high area, and unfortunately for him, I have a pretty fast reload. He's still up there, just a little too high, and we're going to take him down. So we get rid of the 7-1. That's probably one of the more dangerous tanks that was left. 4,327. However, there is an E75, and he was last seen on that flank. I'm curious as to why he hasn't showed up, but he hasn't. So my assumption is he's gone back. Ducky moves up. I see that he doesn't light anything. If they jump him, I'm going to take those shots. And when he gets a little bit further forward, I'm wondering, I wonder if he's going to proxy light that IS-6. If we can pin down where that dude is, then we can all swarm in there and get rid of this guy. The IS-22 on our team's moving in, as is the Progetto. I see the Progetto coming fast, so here we go. All right, so we'll push on in here. And we're looking to take down the IS-6, provided he is, in fact, still alone. The E-75 is a wild card. The Charioteer could maybe be around here, but I'm assuming he's one of the TDs that's kept our guys honest over on the east side and kept them from pushing in. More than likely did some damage there is what I'm assuming at this point. We'll actually get to him in just a minute. So the IS-6B is getting jumped by 3 guys. This is going to be hard for him to fight. He's looking at me. I'll let the Progetto go by. There we go. And we'll just start putting shots into that guy. Boom. Boom. Now, there's an argument to be made here that I'm using my team hit points. He was charging in. He was willing to take the shot, right? So, yes, I could have come around the corner and eaten the shot from him, and I did let the Progetto do that. Absolutely. There you go. So perhaps I am just a stat patter. But the Progetto had already made the move. I make moves all the time like that, and I hope that my team is paying attention, that if I've made the decision to go in there after this dude and take the hit, that they then will follow up and take advantage of that situation and end the guy. Because the reason I did that was for him to take the shot and allow everybody else to get in and shoot him. All right. I will tell you, and I'm sure if you watch my videos on my stream, I am more often than not the guy that actually does that, right? And the fact that you do it on occasion, where you let your team take the shot, that's part of the game. I hardly consider that stat padding. All right, so we're going to come around this corner. We're looking for the E-75 or whoever might be over here, and pretty quickly we get a spot in, oh my gosh, an AFK E-75. The first shot I don't know. I think he's just looking that way. And I go, nope, he hasn't moved. And in fact, he's giving me a side turret. Really easy damage right here. We're just going to kind of hang out. We'll shoot this one. I think dark, or does he get respotted? I don't remember. Yeah, we take a dark shot. I think that actually hit him. So he's hit again. And now my team's all together. One thing I will say about this, you know, we had the TK angst at the beginning. I went to a flank, helped win that flank, or at least find out that they're not pushing that flank, that they're being very defensive. Swung back, helped the AC-48 against the T-44, got that guy out of there. He and I both fell back together, defended, took down the guys pushing in along with the IS-22 and the E-25, right? And then teamwork, jumped on the IS-6. I will tell you, at this point in the game, I was pretty pleased with how the team was working together. We're all together right here, all using the mobility, working together. I thought it was actually pretty good, pretty cool. So we're going to push in. We got the SU. The SU blazes across the open. Ducky sees him coming. Looks like he turns his hull to him, puts a chunk into him, and I'll take a shot, but that doesn't actually damage him. Somehow I got 60 spotting out of that, which must have been sharing with somebody else who saw him. And we'll spin back around. So I really don't want to walk into the Charioteer and the 703-2 until we find those guys. I see the E-75 moving around quickly. He's probably going to get us some lights. We'll come up here. Now here's where I was wrong. In my mind, when I first got the note from Ducky there, I was thinking, well, I was the guy who pushed into the 703. But in fact, the E-25, the IS-22 was ahead of me, as was Ducky around the corner right there. But the Progetto and the AC-48 go exactly where the 703-2-122 would expect them to be, and it's why he's there. So I choose not to go directly at the guy's front. We'll come in here on a flanking move because I know I can do this pretty safely, as there's only 2 enemy tanks left. And the Charioteer might see me, but I do have these rocks to get into, and now we can start working on this 703. The thing about it is a couple of us are pretty close to one-shots. Not me, obviously, but it looks like the IS-22 is, Ducky is an AC-48, even the Progetto if he gets double-tapped by the 703-2. And my expectation for the Charioteer is that he's up on this hill right up here. Right, able to support the 703 and maybe start killing a couple guys along the way. I see the E-25 and the one T-34-2 GFT, which by the way did a good job staying alive based on where he was. I'm assuming he kept getting lit. We'll get to why here in just a minute, and wasn't able to figure out what was going on over there. But now we've got them in every direction. The wild card being the Charioteer. We don't want to let this full hit point 703 maybe get one of us or 2 of us, and the Charioteer maybe get 1 or 2 of us, and all of a sudden now it's 3-2 or 4-2 with low hit point guys. So I'm going to start working on this guy. I kind of expect I'm going to get hit by the Charioteer, and I'm hoping that if I do, I light him, because if he's up on that little promontory, he's pretty far inside my spotting ring, and if he's in that bush, there's no way to 15 meters on that particular bush. So if he shoots, I should end up seeing him. He does have good depression. There's a possibility he can back off enough, but I don't think so in that position. So really, I'm just sort of baiting him, going, hey, dude, shoot me. And if you shoot me, then I'm hoping the E25 and the T-34 GFT will start wrecking him, and potentially these guys to include Ducky, or they push in on him because they know exactly where he is. But it doesn't happen, so I'm a little bit confused, to be honest, on why I haven't taken any shots from this guy. So everyone's kind of poking and prodding, trying to figure this out. I'm thinking, well, do I just go at him? I don't really want to just go at him because I don't want to get double tapped and then crushed by the charioteer. But he fires, so that makes me know that he's only got one shell in 5 seconds. So let's just go in there and try to do the JOB on him, get 355. He's taking shots from behind. Looks like, I think the E25 may have tracked him, so nice job. He fixes it or repairs it, however, and we drop this guy. Boom, boom, boom. Progetto ends up killing him, and I'm at 6,822 with 5 kills. And there's just a charioteer. And at this point, I'm thinking, whatever. The charioteer hits me, that's fine. I have enough hit points to deal with that. Those guys will wreck him if he shows up. E25 is going directly at where more than likely that guy is. I'm going to come around the corner and get spotted pretty quickly. And that makes me go, okay, he's got to be up in that bush. I wonder why I haven't taken any damage. Well, it's because he's AFK, right? He's AFK up there. Who knows how long he's been AFK. Probably every time somebody poked, like the T-34-2 GFT guy, he was probably lighting people all along that ridge over there and making them think somebody's looking at me, but he was actually just AFK, and I end up with 6 kills, 7,518. I think almost, there's one more shot, and there was a blind shot on the E75 that gave me damage, almost 8,000, 1,438 assists. So there you go. There's the truth, there's the perception, and there's the reality, or our own internal reality of what happened. So I come out of this game, we get into the comments that I talked about and talked to you guys about or showed you earlier in the video. And as you can see from my comments and his, some of what we both perceived happened, some of it did not. Right? And then we create our reality out of what that was. I thought it's just kind of fascinating, really, how that went down. It was a good game. But the two AFKs obviously crushed the enemy team. So usually when you have these huge damage games, something like that happens. I say usually because sometimes you just really dominate so much and you do a lot of damage against good teams. That obviously happens. Usually, though, it's some kind of weirdness, as this game was right here. And, when I was talking to Ducky and type my stuff, I'm like, oh, I did this, and this. I'm the reason for that and the other. Well, yes and no. All right, especially the whole idea of, I thought in my mind I was the guy who pushed in on the double barrel. Like I was leading the charge, but clearly not. The IS-22 was already there. The E-25 was on his way. Ducky and the Progetto were coming around the corner well before I actually got there. But I was the one who got up next to him and went, all right, let's figure this dude out. And because I had the hit points, I was willing to take a hit from the charioteer to figure it out. Okay. I'm not saying they weren't, because obviously they all pushed in as well. Everyone was, I thought, really, and that's what I was talking about mid-game, like this is actually pretty good teamwork from a pub match, right? Bunch of random pub matchers kind of got together and really played this end game pretty well. We kind of figured out that we had a good deal going on the east side. I wish the whole team would have fallen back, but really the T-34 GFT and the other guys over there kind of kept a few tanks busy, worrying about them pushing. Some of us swung back to the cap to include Ducky, who was already there, by the way. I do have an issue with him claiming, I was camping and stat padding from the back, when of course he was hanging out back there as well. But he did help stop the T-44, and then when they pushed into the cap, he was there ready to help with me and the 2-barrel and the E-25, where really the teamwork really started to gel on the team right there. So I thought it was interesting. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. I'm going to actually send him the link to this. I'll see if he has any comments on that. Going back to the early TK thing, I will absolutely admit there was the one point where I moved back into the guy's way. But when I kept going, I'm like, dude, all you got to do is just stop for a second. I'll keep going, and I will be clear of you. I'm not going to the sniper spot. And let's just talk about that for a second. It doesn't matter if I was or not, to be quite honest. I wasn't, because that's not the play I make on this map very often. Sometimes I do. But if there was already someone there, I would not go down there and push him out. I clearly did not push anybody out of a sniper spot. Nor did I go to the sniper spot. It was not my intention. However, if I was, it wouldn't matter. Whoever gets there, it's the spot they're in, right? You shouldn't get in there. So that perception and the reality is really two different things, right? on that particular spot itself. There you go, guys. I think there's a lot there. It's not just about the gameplay. Sometimes I find it fascinating how people interact and how they perceive things, and it goes to training. What I did my entire professional life before I retired. We would break down stuff like this. When you got back from a sortie, you would have in your mind what happened, and sometimes it wasn't even close to true. You would get back and go, all right, which way did you break, right or left? And your wingman would say, I broke right. And you would look at the tape and you're like, dude, you broke left. That's not even close to what happened. And sometimes it's partially true, and sometimes it's completely untrue. That's why you look at the replays and go, all right, what really happened here? What was I thinking here? How did it react? How did other people react? And if you're really going to debrief and break down a gameplay like this, you would have to have those other guys right there with you. And it would be really interesting one day to sit down with all 15 players in a game, to play a couple games and then take a couple of them with all 15 players and sit down and break down what everybody's thoughts were. And it would be even more interesting if you could do it ACMI style, where we brought in red air and blue air and everybody was in the same room. And then you watched the replay, with all the lines where the jets went, where all the tanks went on the mini-map, whatever you want to look at it. Was able to call up each person's screen and say, all right, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Where are you aiming? What's the game plan here? I think that would be absolutely fascinating. It's well above and beyond what you have to do to break down a World of Tanks game. But if you're a professional team, I'm assuming that actually some professional teams have a system for doing stuff like that potentially. And when you start talking about making money or it becomes something at that level, and typically it's because of money, right? If you're actually able to make money playing a game, I'm sure that for a lot of video games, people are actually doing stuff like that. Taking the tapes, taking a look at it, breaking it down, subtracting, what your perception was from the reality to try to figure out if those actually match up, and then going into it and trying to figure out how you improve upon that. So I can look at this and take several takeaways from this. Number one is don't block people, even if they irritate you, okay? Like I said, I did it. I admit I backed up a little bit. It pissed me off because all he had to do was stop for a second and let me get by, right? So don't do that. When you get comments in your garage, be careful about what you say happened because it may not be completely true. I don't think I got too far off the rails on that, but there was a couple things I said I did which wasn't exactly true. So there's a takeaway on it there for me. So a couple things, right? You always try to learn, always try to improve. The bush mechanics on that position I was fighting, when I looked at it, I'm like, I probably could have done that a lot better. Could have saved myself a lot of getting spotted and moving around and some other things like that potentially right there. But there's also good takeaways. I thought it was fantastic team play at the end for a random match. You don't get that a lot. Everybody kind of moving together, working together, taking guys down as we went. Granted, the E-75 was AFK, but let's say he was alive. It would have taken all of us to kind of take that dude down. Right, we wanted to get around him. E-25 was thinking about it. I could tell Ducky was thinking about it. The Progetto was thinking about it. Everyone's like, all right, where's this guy? Once we pin him down, let's go around him. But we didn't really need to because he was AFK. And good news for me is I actually took a position that had easy shots on him. And I was able to farm him while he was hanging out there AFK. All right, that was a lot on one little video game replay. But I really thought that was kind of fascinating. I'd throw it out for you guys as this channel is not just talking about playing World of Tanks. It's also talking about a lot of stuff, the gaming industry, how we kind of react to it, how we learn, how we get better at things, not just video games but everything. And that's pretty much it. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for tuning in to Guido's channel. I appreciate the support. As always, if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, you can find those down in the description. We will see ya.